Nicole Griffin. Also, prior to us finding out about this layoff, I had spoke with numerous officers from different municipalities. Our census mostly comes from 6 towns, which is Cliffside Park, Hackensack, Teaneck, Inglewood, Bergenfield, and Garfield. For these officers, if they have to do the transports down to Union County, they can possibly be off the roads from about 1 to 6 hours, depending on when the juvenile gets down to Union County, they have a screening. And if the juvenile is found not appropriate for incarceration at the time, the officers would have to go to the hospital down there or possibly drive back up here to have the juvenile cleared, which that's pulling your officers off the streets from the municipalities for that amount of time, which some towns usually only have 2 to 4 officers at night. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Freeholder McPherson?
If I could, to the individuals that spoke from the Juvenile Detention Center, I've been a freeholder for 8.5 years, so my service here has spanned, I think Sergeant Gaffney said he was here for 9.5.
Yes.
Ms. Griffin, I think you were here.
Yes, 9.5 also.
Okay, probably one of the most controversial issues during my service as freeholder was the Juvenile Detention Center. Finding a new site for it, making sure that it was going to be developed in the proper way, and also knowing that the state had come in and ordered the county to do exactly what we're about to do right if we continue, not in the way that we're talking about right now, by closing the facility and moving the male juveniles to Union. I've also, for the last 3 years, sat on the Juvenile Detention's Alternative Initiative. And while I was pleased to read in the record that the county is going to proceed with the construction of the detention center, which there appeared to be some question about that in January at a meeting that I attended, I was pleased to see that. I want to make it clear that the discussion about closing the detention center in the manner that was described in the newspaper article certainly has not been discussed with me as the freeholder liaison to the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative Committee. I don't believe it was raised at that meeting, which has representatives from the Youth Services Commission, from the Juvenile Bar, from the Public Defender's Office, people that you would think would be considered as to what would be the best course of action for us to take while we're about to do things right by opening up the new center. I also want to note that the letters that I think Mr. Russell presented us with, and I think I speak for the other freeholders here, we were not copied on these letters. We were not copied on the letters from your union representatives nor from Mr. Kornfeld. And I appreciate having the New Jersey Juvenile Justice Commission document. I believe that was presented to us by Mr. Russell, is that correct? I'm deeply troubled by the way that this whole process is being conducted, and I think that the best course of action, of course, would be to have some discussion about what's taking place. In short, whether it's legal or not, I think it's a terrible idea to close the center in the way that's been described in the newspaper article. The juveniles that are waiting in Paramus and that are now in Union, they are awaiting adjudication. They're waiting.
Yes.
And you might not think that they're children from Bergen County, but they are.
Yes.
So
thank you very
I'm
much.
Deeply troubled by the way this has been handled.
Thank you.
Vice Chairwoman, you have a question?
Oh, my question was what the 6 communities were. I'm sorry. Nicole? I'm
Ms.
sorry.
Gifford, could you just come up to the microphone, just give the towns to the Vice Chairwoman again, I believe?
You mentioned 6 towns that were heavily served.
Yes, I looked at our census before attending, and within the past year, I would say our census was highly populated by Bergenfield, Cliffside Park, Hackensack, Teaneck, Inglewood, and Garfield.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, just a point
Yes.
of order. I believe it would be accurate to say that from every single town in Bergen County, there has been some juvenile held in Paramus, that it's not just those communities that produce the
No.
juvenile offenders.
Yeah.